We're going to talk about the inventory, which will give you a list of softwares that are running on a particular server. You can talk about, you can run an inventory and run command to update a patch. You can run the patch manager and a maintenance window. Now patch manager is to upgrade patches on Windows Server or Linux server, and maintenance window basically schedule downtime. So let's say you want to patch something at 3 in the morning. So you will set up a maintenance window 3 in the morning, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. and then run the patch command within that particular window. You can also run the patch manager with compliance to see if the patch will follow your company's compliance restriction. And then finally you have a state manager, which is to ensure the instance are in a consistency with your compliance, governing compliance. Now one thing that I want to show you is called session manager. Session manager, which allows you to start a secure shell connection to your instance, meaning you don't have to directly SSH to the server. You can go directly from the session manager. Now session manager do not require any SSH access or a Bastion host. Only EC2 is supported using session manager, but on-premises are not included at this stage. It allows you to log all the actions that you perform within your session manager to S3, and SAM permission is required for session manager to and write to the S3 functionality. You can enable CloudTrail, which can basically log who's doing what. Okay. So when do you use a session manager? Session manager is used within the AWS. And from the session manager, you can access all the server. No need to open port 422. No need to Bastion host. No need to worry about your private key. You know, the public key that it requires. You don't have to do that. So I will show you how session manager works. First of all, you want to make sure that your system manager has a managed instance. I know that some of you guys were having problem last class. Again, I have a problem. Why? I have a host. Okay, so let me check if I have any host. I'm in Central. Oh, okay, I don't have an EC host. That's probably why. Okay, so I'm going to go and terminate those two. Okay, you know what? Let me do it from. Let me create two sessions for now. I'm going to create two session manager. So I'm going to use my Amazon Linux 2, EC2, configure two instance. Now, when you define the IAM role, I'm going to choose this IAM role called IAM SSM role, the one that we created last time. We need to assign an IAM role for the session manager to work. Okay, and we're going to add a storage configure. Now I'm going to block this security key, no SSH access. Okay, but I'm going to add a rule for HTTP, but no security access, and I'm going to call this rule SSM lab session manager. Launch. Yes, I confirm I have the key, and I will have my two instance ready coming up, or at least soon. So I gotta wait for this one instance to come up before I can show you how to enable the session manager. Now in the meantime, I can, while that is coming up, you can, again, to be able to use most of this, you got to make sure you manage the instance. Yeah, right now I can't do anything, but let me show you. Okay, so let's talk about the patch manager. In the left hand side, patch manager, you can configure patch. You must select the instance that you want to configure the patch for. So let's say I want to update the patch on this guy. And then you have an option here. Do you want to select an existing maintenance window? Maintenance window is what? When you want to create a schedule. At what time you want to run this patch. Okay, so usually for a lot of companies, the maintenance window is usually on every Wednesday, about roughly around 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. That is usually a maintenance window. Okay, you can schedule your own maintenance window. Say I want to run this every 30 minutes on every Wednesday, or every 1 hour, or every particular Wednesday, whatever time. Or I can simply say skip the schedule, execute now. Okay, so right now I want to scan only. I don't want to install any patch. I want to see what kind of patches are running right now. Or you can say scan and install. Okay, so I'm going to patch, I'm going to run on this instance, and as you'll see, these are existing baseline. These are some of the patches available right now. You can push that, but I think if you go to patches, where am I? Okay, let me search the one for me. Owner, self. Where my patch? Okay, do it now. Scan only. Okay. Okay, where is my patch? Okay, so as you can see, these are some Windows updates, which allows you to patch. How come is my patch is not showing up? Patch.
Patch site or patch site? It was there.
Where?
Oh, you were searching somewhere and it was written patch set.
No, it was not. We didn't do any patching. We just looked at the. Come on, let me go to State Manager, see if I see the inventory. Okay, it's Friday. No, today's Saturday, right? Okay, I think this is the one right here. See, Saturday 14. Okay, it was success, and it was gather software inventory. I was scanning only. Okay, there you go. You can go to inventory, and you can get an inventory of all the whatever that you want. You want to get inventory of the software or the patch or what operating system, whatever. Okay, Nitaj, can you shut down your mic, please? All right, so let's take a look at my instance to see if it's up. If I can manage now, this will only so Nitaj, we're hearing a background noise, so you mute. Okay, so here is the instance we're going to manage, and then you're going to go to session manager. See, right now, without going to session manager, if I try to go to the EC2, See, this is the EC2 I just created, this one right here, and I want to connect to that. I want to say let's go to EC2. You see, I'm not able to connect. Okay, Nitesh, I'm muting you, okay, because background noise coming from your end. So the reason why it's not able to connect is why? Because my SSH port was not enabled. In the group, I deleted the SSH port, okay? Or I may not have the key. I may have lost the key. So what I can do in a situation like that, I can go to the session manager.
System and session manager are same.
Session manager is part of system manager. You go to session manager, get started, and then you select the instance. You just click on start session and you choose the instance. And now you have access to the CLI. So you can type sudo root su. You're in a system CLI. So I can go to like cd, etc, whatever I want to go now. Okay, so I have full access to the operating system. So now, if you have lost your key, you can log in like this and update the necessary public key that you need. See, what happened is if you do not have the public key, the SSH public key, you will not be able to connect to these servers. So the one way of fixing that problem is to regenerate a new key, download the code, log into this server like this, and go and update the code in your SSH file. Okay, I'll show you which file to update. So that's what Session Manager does. Now, parameter in AWS, the parameter is like you know how you have a password manager, or what's that called? What's that called? The software Evergreen, Evernote, Green Note, something like that. Notepad. Basically, what it is, it's a secure location to keep certain critical information, okay, right? Log file, a software that allows you to keep your password, your bank details, that is encrypted. Parameter store is exactly like that. In a parameter store, you can securely store information regarding configuration and secrets. You can put all your keys. You can upload all the important URL or whatever sometimes you API strings. All these things can be stored into parameter storage. So if you want to store the parameter, you can simply go to right at the bottom, parameter store. You can create a new parameter. You can call it let's say my active directory IP, okay, and you can put a string value, and you can say value is DC equal DC1 equal 142. I think string value is fine. DC1, that's a that's your first one, equal 142. I want to store that information, okay, and this will be the active directory DC1 IP. I don't think I need this. And now I have that parameter stored. So what I can do with this parameter using command, like the coding, remember all those scripts that you write? Using the script, you can pull this IP address by using the parameter name. Okay, now, I cannot show you right now how to use a script because then I have to teach you how to write scripts. Okay, so in DevOps you'll learn how you use stored parameter to call those values from your AWS console. Okay, see, this is what makes this platform so complicated, is that there's so many scripting going on behind the screen. Okay, so many shortcuts. Okay. today when I was reading, I was learning a new technology within this called Beanstalk. I realized that how much automation is being handled behind the screen. But the question is, in order for you to do this automation, you have to write the scripts. So there's a demand for a developer. So I strongly recommend that every morning that you wake up, you spend half an hour learning Python. It doesn't take 5 minutes, man. It doesn't take 5 minutes to learn one thing, okay? But you gotta do it, okay? So make sure you learn Python every morning you wake up. Okay. If you save half an hour from your cricket match, you'll learn 3 or 4 functions. You laugh at me, but trust me, man. I have people laughing at me and they think that they have all the problem and we don't. But no, we all have to make our time, okay, to make this happen. Okay, so that's what the parameter does. It allows you to store some secret information or is important information and then call them from different functions. Okay, so some company might have data that is required by many different departments, and they can then call it from a central location, which is the AWS parameter store. So this is an example of an AWS parameter hierarchy. You can create a hierarchy. For example, you can say my app. Under my app, you have a dev and then production environment. In the dev, you have a different URL for DB, different password for DB. In production, you may have a different URL, right? One of them. So for example, if I want from my website, which is voicebootcamp.com, currently voicebootcamp.com is located. So let's say I go to my voicebootcamp.com page, root. Okay, so this is right there. I have voicebootcamp.com. Now this is my production page. My current website is running from this folder. Okay, so when you go to something like this, you are going to that particular folder right now. Now I am redesigning my website on a different folder because I don't want to touch my production. Okay, so every day I'm updating a new site which is coming soon. When, don't know. It's called Alpha, and when you go to voicebootcamp.com/alpha, it will be a new site that I'm working on right now. It's not ready yet. I'm testing various functions, and this is located on a folder called Alpha. So I can create a parameter, one called production path and one called development path. And I can store that parameter on my AWS parameter so that whatever the script is running, it can do check. It can go to the right folder. So this would be one reason. Now I may give, I may hire a programmer from India or Pakistan and ask them to develop an app, but I don't want to give them. I don't want to keep repeating the. Here's an example. I don't want to keep repeating the same link to where you can download the stuff every day. So I could create a parameter and you can just simply go to that parameter. Okay. So very useful functions if you are storing lot of data. All right, what if I lost my SSH key? Very common. If you lose your SSH key, there's two important things you think you have to keep in mind. One, are you using EBS for your instance? Meaning, are you booting your operating system from the EBS? Or are you using instant stored data hard drive? So there's two methods you have. If it is EBS back, you can use a session manager. Okay, so first way to do that, session manager, by the way, is not officially recommended. But the first way to do that is that, let's say you have a server and you lost the SSH key. Okay? So what do you need? So how is that SSH key is important? When that key is generated, the encryption from that key is being stored in the server, but you don't have the key. You don't have the key, but the private key of that public key is already stored in the server. So what you need to do is that log into the server and modify that file. The file name is called right here, SSH authorized key. But that file you cannot access because you cannot log in. But the server, that EC2 instance was running from EBS. So what do? You shut it down first. You shut down the instance. You start a new instance, but the new instance will use the old EBS. So let's assume that I have this server right here, EC2. So let's say that I lost my key for this application. I'm going to rename this SSH lab. I lost the key for that server. Okay. So first thing I need to find out what EBS it is running. So I'm using the instance called 132. So I need to find out what is my EBS block, which is going to be right. No, I got to go to EBS. Volume, and I gotta find out which one of these hard drive it is using by that instance. So I look at that instance ID, which is right here. I think last through digit was 132. So attached to 13, the last one. See that SSH lab. So this is the hard drive that I need to use.
The new server.
Right. So what I'm going to do right now is I gotta shut down that instance first. So because I lost the key. So I will go to instance and I shut it down first. I'm gonna say shut down. Stop. And then I'm gonna start a new instance. Okay. But before I do that, I gotta shut it down. Gotta go back to my volume, which is the last one, I believe. Yep. And I gotta do detach it. See that detach volume? What is that? What am I doing? I'm removing it from the server. It's like taking the hard drive out, because you know the hard drive has the data, so you detach it. And when it's detached, it will be no longer in use, but rather available. Okay? So we're going to have to wait until it becomes, see the available. That means the hard drive is there, but not attached to anybody. So what do I do now? I go and launch a new instance. See here, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go next, launch. This is what I'm going to create a new key. Okay. So I'm going to say new key, new SSH key, download. And I gotta copy this key. The content of the key, I gotta copy it. Content of the key, I gotta copy it. I'm recording this, by the way. I think so. Yeah, recording it. So now I have to go to my instances coming up. I have to go to volume, and I gotta attach that instance. Okay, but I gotta know which one though. 66E, no, DCF. Last three digit is D. No. Let me go back to instance. It will be called temp instance. So I go to volume, and I want to attach this guy to that volume. Which one? The temp instance. So it's like putting a hard drive.
Assembling is basically.
Yeah, putting a hard drive to a server, new server, as a secondary hard drive. You attach it, and this is the path. CD, dev, SDF. Okay, attach. And then all you have to do is go to the hard drive, open that particular file, SSH authorized key, and paste that content. After pasting it, what do you have to do? Detach it, put it back to the original one, and then reboot the server. Because it's right now connected to the new server. So after you modify that file, you take it from the new server and you put it into the old server and then reboot the old server. Yeah, Moshe? Sure. Yep. Okay. So this is one way of changing the go back, regaining your access. But the good thing about AWS is they made a better way of changing the password and using something called AWS support reset access. Remember we ran a command line last time to shut down the server? You're going to run that command line to reset the SSH key. Okay? All you have to do is go to your system manager. Make sure the manage inventory has that. What is wrong with this? Well, because I shut it down, that's why.
This whole process was only just to facilitate if I lost my key.
Right. But I have my EC2 running. Okay, so this one should be running temp instance. Now, how many instances do I have here? 3 running, right? Okay, so pay attention to this. So if I go to system manager, manage inventory, getting it started. Oh, what is this? Oh, because that. Okay, so you notice how what's happening here is that my instance is not showing up, right? Every time I click on get started, my instance is not showing up. Why? So if I go back to my EC2, remember out of 3 instances, one of them is shut down because I lost the key. Then I create a new one called temp, but I forgot something. Can anybody think what it was? I forgot to assign permission, the IAM role. So you will see that in the settings, I forgot to attach the IAM role. Remember the SSM role? Because this role gives the system manager the permission to control it. Okay? Because of that, I'm not able to go to. So if I go back now, oops, I have to run a quick setup. I think I have to do the quick setup. I have to run this called inventory collection. Okay. Come on. Okay, I gotta wait for this guy to finish pending. let's change the role, because if the permission is not set properly, I will not be able to access it. Okay, so I'm going to apply the permission here, here, and here. Reset. So I gotta wait for these guys pending to happen before I can see the manage instance. Okay, somehow it failed. These two are successful. Okay, still working on it. Okay, so now I'm able to see that. It's only seeing one. Out of 3, it is only seeing a temp instance because the SSH one is down. But there were other 2, right? The reason those 2 are not showing up here because they're not supported. The operating system that is running on that does not support the system manager because they don't have the system manager agent. Remember I said yesterday that if you want to AWS to monitor your laptop, you have to download an agent. That agent is not configured properly on those 2 servers. Okay, therefore they will not be managed. But because this guy is using the Amazon AMI, it already has the agent installed and therefore is able to manage it. So now with that, what I was going to show you, run command.
So can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
In the manage instances, you only gonna see those instances which you have selected AMI. All other instances you won't be able to see in manage instance. That's what
sorry, repeat that again.
So in manage instances, I'm gonna see only that instance which I have selected AMI.
First of all, only a server that has the AMI, sorry, not AMI, IAM role.
Yeah.
But also, if that server has to have the agent running,
okay.
System manager agent.
How to do that?
Well, I'll show you that later. But basically, there is a small plugin you have to download and install it. That's all, and that's it. This is the run command. Let's see if I can see reset. Now, where is the patch? Is it a patch or? For instance, AWS support, reset, automation, document. So you gotta go to the document and you'll see that there is a document called AWS reset. Reset, let's see. Type it exactly. AWS support dash reset access. Reset access, because reset is not one word. So if I search for that, that is the document that you need to execute. Okay, so if I go to run command, run command, search for the document. Right. It's not here. Okay, I have to find out where how to execute that. I'll come back to that. Using a document automation. Sorry, automation. You gotta go to right here, automation. Okay. So you want to go to automation, execute automation, search for, there we go. Okay, and you want to execute that one. So you say next. So version, click next. You choose, it will ask you instance ID. How do you find the instance ID? So if I go to my EC2 server, right, this is the instance ID. So I gotta copy that. Okay, I gotta copy from here. Copy. So I copy the instance ID. I will put it right here. You have to let the system know what kind of instance it is. T2 small, T2 whatever, right? And then subnet ID, which subnet it is on. How do you find that out? I believe somewhere here. Subnet. It should be right there, subnet ID. See that? You gotta copy that. You put it right there. Then it's asking you assume role. I am. So I gotta put the role name too, right there. And then you execute it. And if you want to find out the command, you copy this command. How to do it using the CLI. Okay. So this is how you execute a script, either yours or provided by AWS, in an automatic fashion to reset the access. What happened here? Okay. So now, so these are the three different ways of changing your recover your password. Access, SSH access. All right, so today's topic will be focused on high availability and scalability, which is load balancer and auto scaling group. So for EC2 is one of the core function of your AWS. Okay, everything that you do is surrounding EC2 and its features. The two most common feature about EC2 is load balancer and auto scaling. Load balancer helps you distribute traffic to multiple instances, and auto scaling can increase or decrease your capacity to handle the load. So using auto scaling, you can increase the number of servers or decrease it based on certain criteria. Scalability means that application can handle greater load by adapting to the new load environment. There are two kinds of scalability you have. You can go vertical or horizontal. So think about vertical is like that. Vertical scalability means that you increase size of the instance. Okay, so today I have a junior guy managing a support, but he cannot take the load. So what I do, because he can only do 5 or 10 functions, then what I do, I hire someone who's more expert. Cost me more money, but if I hire someone more expert, then he can do a lot more tasks. But the problem is what? That I got now 2 person handling in order to handle the loads. That's called vertical scalability. Another example would be, today you have a server with 8 gig of memory, and you realize that something that you have a production coming up or new application coming up, and you need to increase the memory for that event. So what do? You buy the memory 16 gig, put it in. So you went vertical. But now you cannot, if you take the memory out, there's no use of that memory. You already paid for it. So you might as well use it, even though you're not using the capacity of it. That is called vertical scalability. Horizontal scalability, you go in a same pace. Okay? You have 8 gig, then you go temporary 8 gig or 2 gig, and you go slowly like that. Okay? So you take the load slowly based on the need. And then when you don't need it, scale back. Okay? That is called horizontal scalability. So high availability allows you to run your environment so that you can have redundancy. If in case one side goes down, you have other side provide service by distributing your servers into multiple availability zone. So now, if you take a look at my EC2 that I have, all of these 3 or 4, whatever is running, they're all running on A and B availability zone. So temp is running on A, green side is running on B. See that? In Canada, there is only 2 availability zone. Central A, Central B. So you will put 3 servers on A and 3 servers on B. That's called high availability. Okay? Now, high availability you can go either vertical scaling or horizontal scaling. To go vertical, you can change your instance type from T2 small to T2 large. And it will increase more memory, right? Or you can go horizontal by keep using T2 small, but add more servers because it's cheaper that way. So in order to do that horizontally, you got to use auto scaling and you have to use load balancer. So what is a load balancer? A load balancer basically balances traffic to a bunch of servers as it comes from internet. Okay, so users traffic will come in to www.voicebootcamp.com, which will point to the load balancer, and load balancer will distribute the traffic to the instance inside your AWS network. Now, as the instance goes, if for some reason this instance goes down, load balancer will take this instance out of the picture and continue to send traffic to other 2 servers. This is what the load balancer has done. And a lot of enterprise use load balancer on a regular basis. Load balancer does not have to be only for web. It could be for database. It could be for ERP machines. It could be for machine learning language, anything you can think of. So why use load balancer? To speed up your availability, spread the content across multiple server, reduce the single point of failure, right? Do a regular health check to see if the server is up. If the server is up, then shut it down. You can use SSL termination, because if you use AWS load balancer, you get to use all the certificate for free. As many SSL certificate you want. Otherwise, each certificate costs you $300 to $400, $80 to $300 depending. By using a $20 load balancer a month on AWS, I'm saving $2,000 a year. Okay. So there are 3 types of load balancer we have. We'll go through them right now. Classic load balancer, slowly phasing out, old generation. Application load balancer is the current generation V2, and network load balancer. Now, application load balancer only support 2 protocols, HTTP and HTTPS, nothing else, which is for web. But network load balancer can support whatever port you want, as long as they're TCP or UDP. So if you are doing load balancing for your database, you're going to use what? Which one, application or network? Network load balancer. If you are doing a load balancing between your video server, you're going to use network load balancer. Only for web, you're going to use application load balancer. And when you configure the load balancer, you can configure for 2 purposes, internal and external. External one is facing the internet, internal within the AWS. So one of the most important thing about load balancer is health check. Load balancer can check for not just the web server is up, but it can also check to see if your user can log in. So you can set up a test login username and password, and load balancer can constantly check the database to see if you can log in. Because hey, your web server could be up, but the database server could be down. So you can do a load balancing check to say, you know what, something is wrong on far end. So that is called health check. If the response of 200 okay is not received, load balancer will remove you from the target load. Application load balancer runs on layer 7, which allows you to load balance multiple HTTP application across multiple target. Multiple application can use the same machine. Load balancing is done based on URL, not based on IP address, because they're not assigned an IP address. They're dynamically assigned an IP address. However, basically, they are awesome for basic web server or container-based applications such as Docker or Amazon ECS. They do port mapping. Okay. In application load balancer, you focus on port mapping, port 80 and port 443. So if you take a look at the one that I am running, so I have a load balancer running right here. So these are my two instances, and I have a load balancer here, which is right here, and it gives me this address. See that address right there? So if I try to go to this address, DNS address, it's try to go to the particular site within my, see, my website, even though I have point to that address. So whenever you create a load balancer, you will get a AWS DNS name. Then www.voicebootcamp.com will be pointing to this name. Okay. So this is my application load balancer, and I'm listening for port 80 and port 443. And there's extra port. I tried it, but didn't work. So port 80 and port 443. But what I did, I created a rule. So if the user dial port or user type port 80, I am redirecting them to my secure site, HTTPS. So don't worry about that right now. Okay. All your concern is that the listener port is what the user is going to point to. Okay. What is load balancer listening on? Port 80 and port 443. Okay. Then you can monitor target response, like see 1.5 milliseconds, request about 60 requests on average, 400, there are some pages not found, you know, page not found on my website was reached. I receive about roughly 260 requests at a time. How many active connection, how many new connection, so and so. You can get a lot of data about your load balancing, what is going through your load balancer. Now, every load balancer right here, you see the load balancer, you have something called listener, which is listening for port. And then you have a target. See what I'm doing? I'm saying if you receive a traffic from 443, so if you dial this, not dial, but type, coming from voice, I keep saying dial. If I type HTTP voicebootcamp.com and HTTPS at voicebootcamp.com, which one is secure connection? HTTPS, right? Yeah. So what happened if someone type this? So it will come to this listener. 80 because that is non-secure. But I have created a rule that when you use traffic coming here, I want to redirect this traffic to this guy because I want every traffic to be secure. So redirection will bring the traffic to this guy. And when it comes to 443, it will be automatically be pointing to this particular target called web port. So even if I type http voicebootcamp.com, it automatically gets forwarded to HTTPS. See, that's secure. Okay. Now, what is web port? Web port is a target. It's a target group. And that is where I define my target. What are my target? My instance. Where the traffic will go to. So web port is a collection of your EC2 instance. The multiple web server that's going to serve my service. Right now, I have only one instance is associated with it. And the reason behind that is because second instance is acting up. So I did not want to put in there. The second instance are working properly. So I got to fix that before I put it back in. But it is running on two different zones. See, East A and East 1B. So in case the data center in US East A goes down, my web server will continue to run from B. So this is called load balancing concept. So www will come in to the load balancer listener. It will point to a target group based on the EC2 port. Now here's one thing. Look at this scenario. Both of them are, see, this one is port 80, right? And this one is port 443. However, both of them ultimately is pointing to port 80 internally. So from the user to the load balancer is SSL, port 443. From the load balancer to my EC2 is only port 80. Because I don't need to open all the port internally. I am secured up to AWS. Internally, I don't need to secure anymore. Okay? So this is one of the biggest things, because if I want to secure internally, I have to buy separate certificate server and everything, which is a very load balancing. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk about what you call. I'll show you an example of load balancer, and then followed by start the recording and move on to. All right, so I'm going to create a load balance. Well, we already did that, did we not? Okay, so I'm going to go and delete all my instance as well. Right now, only one of them is running, that I believe 10. Okay, so I'm going to create two servers, okay, two EC2 with a load balancer. So right now, okay, let's do it with the auto scaling together. That way it'll be easier. Show you an example. So like I said, you got three type of load balancer. Classic load balancer, which is depreciated, no longer supported. You got network load balancer that use TCP or EDP port, and then you have application load balancer that use port number 80 and port 443. One of the good thing about ALB or application load balancer that you can route traffic based on URL or based on let's say host name. I'll give you an example. Let's say you type https voicebootcamp.com. This will go to voice bootcamp website. Okay, I can load balancer can look at this address and point it to my server. But if I create a rule that say if you see something like this, manpreet.voicebootcamp.com, then I can send it to Google account, Google server. So using the host name, I can redirect the traffic. Although both of them are coming into my site using port number 443. Both of them will come to load balancer with port number 443, but the load balancer will look at this host name and decide that based on that rule, I'm going to forward the traffic to somewhere else. It could be a GoDaddy, could be Microsoft website, could be wherever you want to forward it to. All load balancer will have a static host name. They don't provide you a static IP address. Okay, load balancer IP address is dynamically assigned. You just have to use host name to forward traffic to. Load balancer can scale, but not instantaneously. So you have to contact the AWS for warm up. Network load balancer, directly you can see the client IP address. Load balancer will generate errors based on the type of errors. 400 errors means the error is a client side. 500 error means errors are on the application side. If the load balancer cannot connect to your application, you want to check your security group. Okay. So this morning when I was testing the load balancer before I starting the class, I could not connect. I can connect to the. I can see the instance were up, but I couldn't connect to the website because the security group did not have port 80 open. Okay, one other thing about load balancers is called stickiness. So when you have a one load balancer, two server, whenever customer call comes in, traffic comes in, it will randomly select the server. One traffic will go to server A, other traffic will go to server B. Every time you refresh the page, you might see two servers. But that may not work very well with the e-commerce site. In e-commerce site, it uses session to keep track of your activity. Like when you go to Amazon.com or eBay.com, it knows what you put on the shopping cart, right? Because it keeps track of you. In order to ensure that every traffic comes from that particular customer goes to that particular server. So let's say if Bhavesh comes to Voice Bootcamp website, for that duration, he will always go to server A. But when Misbah comes in, he'll go to server B. Now, after 30 minutes, Bhavesh comes back again, it might go to server B. This is called stickiness. Stickiness means when a customer comes in, you always stick it to the same server. Okay? But the next customer can go to the second server. So you load balance that way. All right, so again, load balancer is layer 7, is a URL based routing, do not support static IP address. These are exam questions, and it can provide SSL termination using SSL certificates. So first of all, in order to use a load balancer in SSL, you must generate certificate. Okay. Now I have a bunch of certificate created, but I don't think certificate manager. Let's see if I have any certificate. Okay, so I don't have any certificate for Canada zone. Okay, I'm going to create a certificate for Canada, provision certificate. and it's going to ask me if request a certificate. Yep, request a new one. Domain. Now you gotta choose your domain. Okay, so I'm gonna choose vbcpod1.com. I want to add another domain, start.vbcpod1.com. That covers everything. Okay, so vbcpod1.com, vbcpod1.com. I can even try all of them, like this, 2, 3, like that. Okay, so when I'm just going to choose one now and click next. I'm going to do email validation, or you can do DNS validation, because Amazon want to make sure that you actually own the domain, or you are authorized. So I'm going to use email validation for now. So what Amazon is going to do is going to send an email to whoever owns that domain by looking up the domain name. So review and confirm an email. So request is in process, and until you approve it, it'll be pending validation. So now I should receive an email anytime from AWS, see, certificate approval. So I will select this link and I approve it as an owner. And I gotta do it for all three.
This is what you did for our labs.
For you guys live at the beginning, yeah. So I have to approve all of them. Huh? Yeah.
So the domain, say for example, okay, Amazon is just here like for you had a domain before on godread.com, right?
Yes.
So you went into the Amazon for the first time, and at that time, if you had put vbcpod.com, did they have your details of your email?
Well, they go to the central server.
Okay.
Because
so it takes time then.
It takes well, no, really, you can quick enough.
And if you have like registered your domain with Amazon,
it's much faster.
Exactly.
For sure.
Okay, perfect. I
Yeah.
just know that. Can they know if you are registered with somebody?
Okay. So now, if I go back here and refresh this, refresh it, it's issued. I have a certificate from GoDaddy. Sorry, not GoDaddy, AWS. This certificate does not expire. Validation state, no, in use, not in use yet, but I have a certificate and I can download this certificate if I want to. So now what I want to do, no, it's free. It's free. Okay. So I have a certificate. Next step is to create my instance. So what I will do, I will run 2 instances. Let's use web server, Apache. Let's do WordPress certified by Junkin. Okay, I'm going to use a WordPress. I'm gonna make 3 servers using the micro launch. I'm gonna launch 3 instances. It tells me that I should use auto scaling rather. It'll be better, but I'll show you that later. I want to use this zone automatically applied. Let's go 4. Okay, 4 instance, public assign. I will assign the IAM role and click storage, leave it as this 10 gig. Okay, name load balancer lab. Okay, LB lab. Security, these are the port I want to open. I don't want the SSH because server does not need it. My SSH will be provided by load balancer. Sorry, HTTPS. My HTTPS will be provided by the load balancer, so the server does not need it. But if I'm going to use this security group for my load balancer, then I'll have a problem. So let's see what happens. I'm going to say This is SG security group for load balancer target. Okay, so my web server, I'm gonna create a new key. We'll call this LB key. Launch. All right, so I got 2 servers coming up. Oh, sorry, 4 servers coming up rather. They're all gonna be blog server with a web server running and everything ready to go. View instance. So 4 of them are being built. So while it's being built, I'm going to go and create a load balancer. So right here, load balancing or auto scaling group. Now I can also do auto scaling group. It will create the load balancer for me. But I don't want to show that right now. So I want to go to load balancer. And I'm going to create a new load balancer here.
Creating load balancer and auto scaling.
Right. So I'm going to create a load balancer. It's going to be load application load. I'm going to call this SPLB lab 1.
No more showing classic, right?
Classic is I think it's being removed. Let me check. Create load is there, but it's not recommended.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's grayed out. Is there but not recommended.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So application LB load balancer is internet facing, not internal. So internet facing means it will connect to the public. Yeah.
Sorry. So we have to create one more, right? Because on the slide it was written that there are 2 types, internal and external.
Yeah, but I'm just only showing internal.
But
external.
You are showing internet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to listen to both port 80 and port 443. Okay. But as soon as you select 443, it's going to ask you for certificate. Okay. Availability zone, you need at least 2 zones. Zone A and Zone B. Security group, a certificate. That's the voice VBC pod 1. So that's if you have your own certificate, you can upload your own certificate.
You created 3 of them, right?
I created only one. VBC pod 1. Okay, and a security group, load balancer own security group they will provide. You can customize it and you can choose existing one. See, this is the one we created, or you can create a new one. So I'm going to create one called SGLB group, and it will support port 443 and port 80. Next, target is I'm going to call this my blog server, and it's based on instance. Okay, and what are you going to monitor on the server to make sure the health is okay? So you can monitor based on HTTP port. You can say as long as the port 80 is up, the server is up. And I will keep it as it is. And now I'm going to choose these 4 servers to be part of this group. So whenever load balancer receives traffic, it's going to choose one of these servers. And review it, create, and you're done. You have a load balancer. 5 minutes. So it does take some time for the load balancer to come up. It's provisioning, as you can see. So while it's provisioning, let's go to the blog and see what the blogs is what's happening with the blog. So the blog is up. I can copy this address. There you go. Hello world. Okay, now I want to customize this blog, so I got to find out the password, and which is a very pain. I want to customize this word. Okay, so what I want to do is I got to find out their username and password first. So I do that by going to the log file, get system log. This one IP address, usually right there. This is the password. The username is user. So I want to go to the IP address wadmin. If you don't know WordPress is their own username. Remember. Okay, so that's not the username. So copying the password is tough. Okay, now it did. It didn't copy properly. Okay, so now I'm in the
quotation, right?
right. So now I'm in the thing, and if I go to page, sorry, post, simple page, no, post. I think I have one post there called Hello World. I'm gonna call this Hello World Server A. Okay. So now, if you try to go to that page, it will say Hello World Server A. For the second one, exactly. So I'm gonna call this Server A. Second one will be Server B. Third one, Server C. Fourth one, Server D. So now for each one of them, I have to get the password. So I'll copy, I'll go to that page, wadmin. I have to get the password. I know the username already. Okay, so that is the password right there. So user, save, okay, save post, title, server B, update, done. Let's do that for the two more server. Should have selected two. Okay, I'll just do go at 2. So what I'll do, I will go back to my target group. You'll see the target group in load balancer. This is my block server, and those are the 4 servers that I have. So I'm going to remove the 2 server from here because they really don't need it. Okay, save. So only I got 2. Okay, draining, so it's removing it. Okay, healthy means the server is up, draining means it's being removed. Okay, so now if I go to my load balancer, which is the one I created, it gave you this URL, domain, DNS. If I select this, copy this URL, and I try to go to this page, it will say welcome to blog, server A. If I refresh it, it goes to server B. If I refresh it, A. Why is that? It's load balancing. But what if it's an e-commerce site? I need to enable something. Sticky. It's called sticky. Okay? So right now, every time I refresh, or every second time I refresh, it will go to the different page. So if I'm logged into server A, and if I go to server B, I will not have my login information because the session is not transferred. So when you configure your load balancer, right in the target group, this is your target group, and if you click on edit, no, not here. If you go to health check, description, yeah, see that stickiness. if I click on enable for how long, say 30 minutes. Usually, shopping cart lasts 30 minutes. You can say for 30 minutes, as long as you come back to within the 30 minutes, it will always give you the same site server. Okay, so after that, all I have to do is keep refresh. One, two, three, 4, 5. See, it's not changing.
Half an hour will stay here.
As long as within, well, no, it will stay as long as you're on site. But if you leave and after half an hour come back, it will still be there, same page, all the information. This is called stickiness. Okay, now if I were to go, let's say volume, EC2, and I shut down the server A, okay? Because this guy is saying server A, yeah. I'm gonna shut down server A. While the server is down, go back to your load balancer, target group, and in the health check, where do I go? Target, you'll see unused or healthy. See, unused. Unused means the server is down. If the port 80 is down, it will say unhealthy. Okay, so depending on what is that you have, it will show you different messages. So now that the server A is down, if I refresh this, it goes to B. See, it goes to B. Even though I'm within the 30 minute, but hey, the server is down. Okay, if I shut down both of them, if I shut down both of this, and then go to my target group, I will see both of them unused. And if I try to refresh, 503 service temporary unavailable. It's not your fault, it's a server fault. Anytime there's a server fault, it'll be 500 series error. Okay, if I try to put some different name, it'll give me 401 error. So if I change this URL to 8 to 9, I'm gonna get a 400 series error, which is site cannot be reached. Okay, or something like this. I put 4 Faisal. Okay, nothing error. So this is what load balancer does, and in the matter of 5 minutes, you can have your load balancer up. Okay. Now I'm going to delete that. Oh, deleting load balancer target group. Okay. So first delete the target load balancer. Any questions, online team? Target block is currently used by listener. Who's the listener? Okay. Now I'll show you auto scaling. Okay, so let's remove this target group for now. Then see if I can remove this blogger. Remove this. You gotta make sure you delete everything, otherwise God knows how much charges you'll have. Okay, my load balance is done. Now auto scaling is scale horizontally. Okay, so I'm gonna create a group called auto scaling. Let's call this launch configuration. Yes. No, let me delete this. Create a new launch configuration. Now you must choose what kind of server you want to auto scale. Okay, so I want to install fresh Linux server, but the fresh Linux server does not have web server installed, does not have database installed, right? So what's the point of creating a bunch of servers that nothing is there? My auto scaling purpose is what? That when there's a load, you bring that new server, but if the new server is not configured, what's the point of that server? So that means when you create an auto scale, your AMI image should be selected based on something that already have everything ready, like a template. Like when you're creating auto scale does what? Auto scale says you add more servers when you need it. But when I'm adding new server, if that server doesn't have my web server running, what's the point? What's the point of a fresh server if there is no web server, database, my files, and nothing in there? So I must choose an AMI image, something from my own AMI. Which is, remember last week we showed you how to create your own image? Same managers. Or you can say, okay, let's not choose my own AMI, let's choose the Amazon, but during the auto scale creation, please install the web server. So you can tell the auto scale what code needs to be executed for the server to have everything ready. Okay, so again, think about this. I have a web server running, okay? And at 12 o'clock, I know there will be more traffic coming in, so I want to add 2 more servers to serve my web server. But if the 2 new server doesn't have the web server installed, what the purpose of this 2 server? Nothing. In fact, it's going to cause more problem because bunch of customers will go to that server and found page not found. So my existing image should have everything ready, or I should have a script that the new server that's being built on should have run the script that will make the server ready. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create 2 instances or 3 instances and tell the AWS to execute some code, meaning install the web server. Okay. So I'm going to choose the purpose. It's going to say what is the purpose of this name. I'm going to call this my, what is it called? SysOps AG. IAM role going to be assigned. Advanced, anything. Okay, so user data, that's where you put the code. What do you want to execute? It's like when you install Windows, what do you usually do? You update, you execute the update, you disable some firewall, you enable something, right? Same thing. User data means what do you want to execute to get the server ready. Now, remember the code folder I gave you? AG Lab, there is a called user data script. You can open that in Notepad. This is what I want to execute. I want to say yum update install. So, okay, actually I'd rather open that in Notepad or WordPad. Okay, this is the command I would like to execute. What are this command doing? It says yum update, so I'm going to update the server. So as it creates the instance, it's going to update the server. I'm going to say yum install HTTP, so install the web server. Start the web server, enable the web server, and say the hello world from the server. It's going to create a custom page. Okay. Again, if you are a programmer, you can connect to the database, you can connect to your Oracle database, whatever. But I don't want to do that right now. I want to run this code right here in the user data. It's going to assign a public IP address, fair enough. Click next. 8 gig of hard drive, security. Again, auto scaling, you need the port 80, right? You need port 80 HTTPS and all the other port that you need. I'm going to call this AG SysOps Lab. Review. Okay, now if I go back, let me review one more game. So auto scaling is increasing the server in horizontal way, right? In order to distribute traffic automatically those servers, what do I need? Load balancer.
Yeah.
But I don't have a load balancer.
But you just said that if I'm gonna do the auto scaling, it's gonna do the load balancing.
Exactly. It's going to create the load balancer for you.
Automatic.
Auto scaling automatically creates a load balancer for you. Okay? So it's important to understand that. So let's go and review and launch config, your key, launch, and voila. Now it's going to ask you the group. So auto scaling group. Let's say I'm going to call this SysOps group. That's a template. So far I created a template. Now how many servers? Group size 3 instance. Okay, subnet. All the subnet that you want to put those, distribute the servers. So if I put 4 instance, it's gonna distribute them into 2 group, 2 in A, 2 in B, something like that. Advanced health check 20 seconds, load balance, receive traffic from one or more load balancer. Now I don't have a load balancer, so I gotta create. I don't even have a target group. So this is where you have to create the target group in advance. Okay, so I cannot continue unless I create the target group. So let's go and create a target group. So remember load balancer. EC2. If I go to EC2, on the left hand side I got my load balancer target group. So I've deleted everything, right? So I'm going to create a target group. Let's call this SysOps target. Based on HTTP, check for port 80. This is my default. Health check, all good. Create the target group. I just create a target group. This is the target group is going to add those servers in. Okay. Now the fact that I created now, if I can, I don't know if I can go back. Okay, I cannot go back. Okay. SysOps AG. IAM role. Install this, storage group. This is the one we created, right? Yeah. Review, create launch, LB key. Okay, name already exists. Okay, I have to start again. I'm going to call this second time. Okay, so now SysOps group 2, group whatever, second time. 4 servers in this group. In these 2 data center, receive traffic from load balancer, which target group. Now we're not going to use a classic load balancer, right? That's no longer there, so we cannot choose anything. But the target group, I can choose the one I just created. So I want saying that put it into this target group. Okay, and I want to be checked on every 20 seconds. I want the health check to be checked by the EC load balancer. See, if you let the EC2 check, as long as the instance are up, nothing will go wrong. But if I let the load balancer check, load balancer can tell the auto scaling group to add or remove. Okay. Nothing else is needed. I'm going to keep it initial size, or you can increase how many servers you want to increase or decrease. Okay, just keep it initial for now. No notification is required. Tag not required right now. So it's gonna start with a group of 4, minimum and maximum. So you can say that minimum always should be 4 instances.
Maximum 4.
Or maximum 4, but you can change that later.
Right
Okay.
now, maximum you can go up to 4.
Right. Okay. Leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. And create the group. Okay, auto scale group creation is done. And as you can see, it's in process right now. Okay, it's in process. And if you go to your EC2 instance, you'll see 4 servers are coming up. Okay, and as it comes up, let's go check my target group. Load balance. Let's go check the load balancer first. Okay, so it is probably, so because the servers are not up yet, I have to wait. Okay, so I have to wait for the auto scaling group to come up. For instance, for desire, so you can change it if you want to say how many desire or whatnot. Whatever. Where is the edit? Okay, edit button. I said minimum 4, minimum 2, but desired capacity is 4. So at any given time, 2 is okay, but 4 should be there at any given time. Maximum no more than 4. So it's going to add 4 more.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's see what happened. See, they're all unused because still coming up. Because remember, it has to install the HTTP first. It has to run, it create the instance, install those commands that I put in there. Okay? And you will see those commands coming up. It's still initializing. So let's take a quick 5-minute break while this server is initialized. Everyone back? Okay. So as you can see, minimum door for. So how do we? Okay, so let's. Okay, so now, if I try to go to your load balancer IP address, which is see this name, DNS name, that's the address that they gave me, right? So if I just go to that, see hello world, look at the IP address of the server, 196. If I refresh it, I get a different server because it's load balancing. See that? Every time I'm getting different server. Now, if how do I do uncheck? I wanted to make the volume unhealthy. Okay, I know how. Instance. three of the server, I'm going to shut it down. Oh, good God. This one. Stop. This one. Stop. Forcefully stop. This one also. So now I got 4 servers going down. Load balancer target is showing, should be showing unhealthy, unused. Auto scaling. Auto scaling may take a little longer. Default cooldown. Come on. Only one is running right now. Okay, so I think my health check grace period. Well, I did not have health check policy. Okay, let me create a scaling policy. I don't think a scaling policy is created. Okay, scale. CPU load balancer count request. SysOps target value. Policy maintain the metric at the target value by adding or removing target value. Two, instance need. Okay, so 1 instance needed. 20 seconds. 11. Oh, that's a warm-up time. Policy maintain the metric at the target value by adding or removing instance as required. Okay, there you go. It is saying terminating instance.
Just repeat what you did.
I just went to create a policy.
Okay.
It said as long as there's 1, remove it.
Policy.
And it's going to derail it, and I believe it's supposed to also start creating a new one. See, launching new instance. So if I go here, I think it should be shutting it down. Okay, it's launched the other one. It's initialized a new one. See that? Initializing. It created a new one. Okay.
Okay. Like you stop that.
Well, I stop out of 4. I stopped 3. So minimum supposed to be 1, and I have said in the policy that hey, your sorry, where is the policy? That add one instance. So if I were to modify this, I say add 5 more. Okay, let's see what happened. See, it's waiting for creation. Terminating terminating. Not in service yet. These are the one launching new instance. So whichever server goes down, it deletes it and create new one.
It should running on instance, right?
Yeah, if you go to instance, you'll see the one coming up.
4, right? Like total?
Yeah, so it's coming up 1, 2, 3. This was already there. This was created first time. This was created first time, and this is created second time. So this is what auto scaling does. It's scale. I mean, you have to know. You have to tell the system when do you want to scale. Average CPU. You can create a policy says average CPU. Okay, based instead of that, say if the CPU utilization is 40%. Okay, because you got to tell the policy when do you want to activate that policy.
40% is
Giving an example.
like 70%.
I'm just giving an example. I'm giving a simple example. You can add a new policy, more detailed one. Okay, you can say add server when the load balancer check failed, add 5 server. Okay, so I'll show you more examples tomorrow in terms of based on certain trigger point how you add and how do you delete it. Okay, so
Total 5, add 5 means like
5 more instances.
1 is a default, right?
Right.
We already created minimum, right?
Yeah.
Like 5 is like 6 instances should be running.
Correct. You can set to 5 instance, or you can say add 5 instance or 5% of the group, whatever you want. You know what I mean? You can create a new alarm if you want to, but this alarm is saying when the load balancer's check failed. So whichever server is down or load balancer is unhealthy, is going to remove it. And then delete it rather, and add the new one.
Load balancer?
Yeah, see the load balancer, if you go to the load balancer, so the load balancer target group is saying that these are the server that is healthy and these are the draining. Draining means removing it. So he's removing these servers and adding this one, initial. So whichever server gets added will be part of this group. Whichever server is down, it will be removed from the group and terminated.
Load balancer automatically attached with
Well, it's sending alert to the auto scaling group. Auto scaling group. Okay. All right. So what I would like you guys to do is that the document, the PDF that I gave you, read about these 2 sections that we talked about today. We'll do a lab tomorrow together. I'll give you the video tonight in probably in a couple of hours. I have to compile it to a web file. I'll send it to same thing. I'll upload it to the same folder.
which one like
I said, okay, you guys are not in the group. Okay, I'll add you in the group. But there is a link in the chat as well. Let me send
Yeah,
it
the
again.
chat I gave you should be uploaded into the same folder.
that's why we are not getting any.
No, but it is on this group as well. See the WebEx chat? I uploaded the link.
This one.
Yeah, I will upload it there on the same link that in the web chat. Let me delete all this.
I don't remember. I think so. Okay, and how do you spell?
M
No, yours.
HER
HAR?
W
here in this first.
All right, otherwise we're done for today. I will see you
Tomorrow we'll practice.
tomorrow. We'll do practice, but should also do practice today.
And today was topic auto scaling.
Auto scaling, EC2 load balancer, and system manager still should try.
Are you here for the or are you just leaving them?
I'm here for around half an hour.
Okay, so can I sit here for next 1 hour?
No.
No, now that you have
Yeah,
to take the
yeah.
permission, that's why I asked.
All the videos are on that link.